Hello, I'm the Reverend Kirk Thomas, and we're going to do just a short tutorial on how to make Brigid crosses or Brigid crosses. Now, it's Imbolc almost, and Imbolc is sacred to the goddess Brigid, or Brige in Irish, and so these crosses are very appropriate to be made at this time. Now, Brigid is the goddess of the hearth and the blacksmith fires. She's a goddess of poetry and of inspiration, and she's also a goddess of healing. Now, normally, these crosses are made out of rushes. There's a picture of some here, growing in the wild. Now, rushes grow in wet ground usually, swampy areas along the banks of rivers or perhaps on the edges of ponds. The rushes we have here at the Abbey grow on the edge of the pond in the Nematon area, which is actually sort of neat when you think about it. And normally what one would do is make these crosses the evening before Imbolc. Now, we got to remember that the Celtic way of looking at time is a little bit different from our modern way. We tend to consider the day as starting at midnight and ending at midnight the next day. But in the Celtic world, the day would start at sunset and end at sunset the following day. Therefore, to make these the night before means to actually make them at the very beginning of the day, after the sun has set. All right, there are multiple designs for Brigid crosses. We're only going to deal with two of them today, the more common four-legged one and also the three-legged one, which frankly I prefer for a variety of reasons, being a good pagan. So let's get started. Now here is an example of the four-legged Brigid cross made out of rushes. And then here is a three-legged one, as you can see. The reason I prefer the three-legged is because I think of the triads of Druid religion and thought, and that is, well, fire, and tree, land, sea, and sky, heavens, midworld, underworld, and the threes seem to work really, really well. The fours, although there's nothing wrong with this, the fours just looks a bit like a Christian cross to me, and that's why I don't particularly care for it. For the prison that I go into, Coyote Ridge Correction Center, I made them out of this, before I found that we had actually rushes growing on the property, I made them out of this, it's sort of like the stuff that you would make a broom out of, that I managed to buy at Michael's. And that's just what they look like, and I think they're pretty nice. I also, just for the heck of it, because we had really big reeds growing in that pond, is I made one out of these big reeds. Here's examples of some of these reeds. As you can see, they're massive things. And so I made this, and the weird thing about it, of course, is it's kind of clunky looking. It's still a Brigid cross, it's just clunky. So what we're going to do is start with reeds. Now, I'm going to try to be as clear as possible about this. You start with a reed, okay? A standard reed. Then you take another reed and you bend it in half, okay? And really kind of chomp down on that corner there so it will be relatively flat. And then you put it over the single reed. Can you see that? Over the single reed. Now, so we've got, as one fellow said that I saw on YouTube, 12 and 6 and 9 and 3. So we have now gone to put a new one facing 9. Well, now we're going to do another one facing 12 on the outside. All right? And by doing this, we are holding down that first one we put on, the one going to 9. Then we do the same thing again. This time we're going to, what I suppose is 3 o'clock. And that now is holding it. Whoop, get it a little closer. And that too is holding it. And then we pull up another one. That's going back to 6. And we're starting to get this little square. You see this? We're starting to get a little square in here. So, just keep going for a while. Round and round. And believe me, practice makes perfect with these. I'll keep going. Round and round. And they're not going to be perfect. I mean, come on. What can I say? So let's see, we've gone 3 rounds. That was the 4th, I believe. Yeah, so let's do a few more. Now, 1, 2, 3, and one more. Okay. See what we've done? We've gone all the way around, but there's nothing to hold it here. There's nothing to make it stay, as it were. So what we're going to do is take that one back off. And this last one here, we're going to push back down just a bit to make a piece that hangs down just a touch. So we're going to put this one on, but we're going to put it in that little lock that we made. You see, oh, that one, missed that one. So we're getting locks on here. These reeds, I'm afraid, are all I could find. The gardener this year cut them all down last autumn with his weed eater, which was not a good thing. So these are kind of spindly rushes, I'm afraid. All right, so I'll push that back in. Yeah, there we go. And then this one goes to there. And then you pull the lock back up. And there we are. Now, what you have to do now is tie them off. Some people like to use reeds to do it, but I have found that they come apart very, very, very quickly. Now we have, central heating in this world. And so the problem is that it dries them out, and when they dry out, they kind of fall apart a little bit. And what you want to do is you want to keep these around for the whole year. It was believed that a Brigid Cross in the house would protect the house from fire. Now, a sort of a fun little side story here about an early Wellspring festival, the ADF annual meeting. This would have been back in the 90s, I believe. And what they did is they decided they were going to have this temple. They built this temple out of wood and muslin and all this stuff. And then everybody came and brought offerings to put in the temple. Then they processed down to the great fire and they threw it on the fire to burn as an offering, right? It didn't burn. It just sat there, and it didn't burn, and it didn't burn. And they were trying to figure out what the problem was. Well, someone had stuck a Brigid Cross up inside the temple. So they had to bang it out of there and break up the temple without the Brigid Cross in it so that it would finally burn. So, well, maybe there's something to that old wives' tale about it protecting against fire. Okay, so here we go. Here's a 4-sided Brigid Cross. And what you got to do now is you just sort of like clean it up. Cut off the excess string. I use pretty long pieces of string because it's easier to deal with. And then I like to cut the ends just to sort of clean them up a little bit better, just to make them look a little bit nicer. Of course, they're going to go flying everywhere because they always do. There they go. And there you have it. May not be perfect, but it'll do, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is make another one the same way, only the idea is we're going to make one of these three-sided. Now this is a little bit trickier. Something to bear in mind, you take it and you bend it in half. Then you take it and you bend it in half. Come on, baby, you can do it. You place it on there. And this time, instead of just going round and round and round, we're going to do a lock right at the beginning. So take one and bend it in half. It's going to go like this, but we also need to get it inside the lock. In there. So it's in, pull it through, jab it up, make it, what you're going for here is a triangle, a little triangle, all right? And it actually holds, which is going to make it a lot easier to keep going on this. Another half, across there. Another, that one's not very good. Yeah, you really do want fairly nice, large bits of rush if you can. I'm going to have to talk to the gardener about next year. And just keep going around. One, two, three. One, two. Oh, there's not enough yet. Well, I like to do three, going around. Grab some more over here. A nice long one. And now this is the last one, and again we have to lock it. So it's going to go through here, but it's got to go in this one. As best you can. These aren't the most sturdy in the world, but there we go, three-sided. Take your string again, or whatever you want to use. Some people make Brigid crosses out of pipe cleaners, which actually is probably pretty smart because it's with that metal in there, it makes it kind of stiff. Well, you can use anything you want, actually. So another piece here. See, I had a short one there. Not good. Tie it tight so it'll hold together. And once more, tie this last one off. There are folks on YouTube who are much better at this than I am, but I need something that I can send into the prisons. So we'll clean it up a little bit. Cut those ends off. Hopefully they're not scattering all over the floor. And voila, we have a three-legged Brigid cross. Now, the thing about some in prisons especially, let's face it, some people are not going to be able to find rushes. I get this. And in some places, you can't even have them, you know. So I'm going to also demonstrate a little bit here about how you can make these out of paper. I'm going to need to cut this one up. When I first decided to give this a try, to make them out of paper, what I did is I got a nice sheet of fairly, this is yellow, I know, green or brown would be better, but anyway, it's a nice sheet of fairly stiff paper. You know, it's not thin stuff, because the thin stuff might be too difficult to use. And then I went through and measured off, well, the first time I did it with 1/2 inch wide, and it looks fine, but it's really kind of clunky looking. So I changed it and did it again, doing it at 1/4 inch intervals, 1/4 inch across, measured on both, you know, top and bottom, and then made the lines, and then carefully cut them out. All right, and that way I'd have all this material to work with. Now, the one thing about doing paper is that, you know, you tying it off tight and stuff isn't going to work. At least it didn't work for me. So for you guys and gals in prisons, or anybody else for that matter, you want a glue stick. You know, I'm sure that if you have any craft areas at all where you are, that they probably have glue sticks. This one is purple. This one's a weird one, but I mean, normally the ones that are white they're essentially like flour glue. So I don't think they're that big of a problem. But all right, for the four-sided Brigid Cross, we're not going to worry about locks and stuff. Well, we could try it. But again, you got 12 and 6, and put it in there. A little bit floppier, and like this. What I found was good is to just put a little bit of glue on the inside so that when it goes over, it isn't going to go anywhere on you. Because these are harder to keep good. All right, then you take another one. You fold it in half. And give it a little bit of glue just to be safe. And you put it there. So that what you're doing is trying to make that square again. Remember? Keep going. Come on. I put the newspaper down because otherwise I get glue all over the table. What a pain. Once again, do it like that. That square is coming along really nicely now. Keep folding over. What I'm trying to do is I'm folding these over in the direction that the pencil marks aren't going to show, but it doesn't really matter. I suspect the goddess is delighted at whatever you can do, the best you can do. You know, like they always said since the time of Hesiod, he who has more shall give more, which also implies that he who has less, or she, may give less. So you just do the best you can. The gods aren't looking for perfection. Although they'll take it. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, you know. We're going up to twos. We're doing twos. And here's the last of the twos. Ah, come on. Fiddly. It doesn't take much glue. All right, so what we've done here is we've only used 2 in each direction, and we've got the square going. So we'll do one more set. And you see it's already starting to go wonky on me because glue isn't that great. But without the glue, I can't do them at all with paper. There. But it will work. You can do it. Now, as soon as we're done with this, we're going to do a 3-sided with the paper, which is a little bit different. Not greatly different, but a little bit. I also want to be sure to show you what I do for the ends, since, you know, you could try tying them off, but I think it might be kind of rough on them. Besides, we got glue, what the heck. The other thing about glue, of course, it sticks to your fingers, which makes things a little bit trickier. No, some of these have moved on me. But it is, okay, more or less the square, which is what we're looking for. So then what I do is I take a shorter piece, fold it over at the end to sort of make a way of tying it down. And this one didn't work that well. And I'm hurrying because I don't want this to last too long. I don't want you guys to get bored out of your minds. Oh, don't bump the camera, Kirk. Now, that's my rather hurried one. I made another one earlier that frankly looks a little bit better. You just have to be careful and go slowly if you can. It's sort of fun to, you know, cut the ends off. And I'll do the same over here. That glue didn't stick very well. And remember that practice makes perfect. And as you can see, I need to practice more. Come on, that glue isn't holding. So, square Brigid crosses. Now, let's turn this back up. Assuming I've got enough of these already cut out, I may have to cut out another one. There's another baby over there. So, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, I think we're good. Cut out some slightly longer ones this time. See, my issue is glue gets on everything, and that's a bit of a bother. So, but again, you're always folding these in half. In fact, if you're like, everybody can't make one of their own, and there's a few of you making them for everybody else in your group, then one person could be sit there folding these in half. And then the other person could then start building. Having your stuff made in advance is always best. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to bother with the locks. Okay? Because we don't really need to. No, see, that's not hanging straight for some reason. Try to keep them straight if you can. On these I find, because of the weird angles, if you can put a little bit more glue on, it might work better. All right, so now we have our first triangle. This is what we needed, was that triangle. And you just keep going. Keep gluing. Go much faster if these were all folded in half already. But not glued, you never get them apart. 1, 2. Whoa, got a ton of glue on that one. Oh well, see how best we can go. And so we continue. 1, 2, 1, 2. Putting these together. As best we can. We're only going to do 3 across on these. All right, so I got 3 there. Talk about your triplicities, your triads. 3 times for the cross. And of course, glue is everywhere. Yuck. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and here's 1, 2. And then we make these things. As you can see, I've got glue sticking everywhere. That one's done. That one's done. And the last one. And so here is a 3-sided, 3-legged Brigid Cross. All done. This is the one I made before. Oh, that was the one I made before. See? So you can have these. They're just like the one we made out of rushes, only, let me see, that way. No. It is this way. It's just like the one I made out of rushes, only it's made out of paper. So you can do this. And so I would just like to wish you all a very happy Imbolc. And may you have a nice Brigid Cross that you can put out for the goddess to bless, for you to keep for the next year. Thank you.